Well, U.S. stocks are continuing to drop as investors closely monitor the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Dow Jones fell nearly 800 points Monday. The Nasdaq plunged more than 480 points. The S&P 500 also dropped around 130 points. Meanwhile, commodities, including wheat, nickel, gold, all surged over rising tensions in Ukraine. For more on this, I want to bring in Dion Rabouin. He is a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much for joining us, Dion. As you just heard, rising oil prices are disrupting global markets. Can you explain to our audience its effect on the overall U.S. economy?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, as everyone knows, oil prices affect the price that we pay at the pump for gasoline, diesel, things like that. But one thing a lot of folks normally don't think of is how that impacts just about everything, because, whether it's trucks that are carrying the food or supplies or goods that we get from overseas, the oil tankers or the airplanes, those all run on fuel as well. And the price of fuel for those is going up. So as delivery costs go up, the price for just about everything from delivered goods to food to just about everything that you see on the store shelves starts to rise because those delivery costs rise and those costs just kind of start to add up. So you could see this push inflation even higher. I remember we saw in January inflation at the highest level in about 40 years. That could continue rising higher.
And as we reported earlier, we haven't seen these types of gas prices in 15 years or so. So you hear people sort of preparing and knowing that perhaps they might not drive as much. But how high do you think these prices could go?
Well, we've started to see some analysts on Wall Street talk about the possibility of $200 oil. Now, none of them are saying they expect that. None of them are calling for $200 oil, but they are saying, hey, let's start to think about what that would mean, what that would do to other costs, and what that would do to the market and the overall economy. None of them would be good effects.
And what does that look like for people at the pump when you hear $200 for oil?
Well, we've heard about $5 per gallon gas in some places, I think San Francisco and the Bay Area. That could become a reality for more people. The U.S. right now is the largest producer of global oil. So the idea that we're going to experience shortages, things like we saw in the 1970s, that's much less likely. But you could be getting prepared. I should say you should be getting prepared to see those prices go up as long as this conflict continues and as the U.S. government tries to push harder on Russian President Vladimir Putin and their main export, which is oil.
When you speak of the president there, Vladimir Putin, Russia's currency sank to a record low on Monday. What impact could that have on the Russian economy and the war?
Yeah, this is one thing that I don't think gets enough attention, and that's the value of the Russian ruble. When we started this year, it was about 73 rubles to $1 US. We moved today during intraday trading to about 150. So that means the currency has lost half of its value from where it was at the beginning of this year, which was already an incredible low level relative to history. So as the value of the Russian ruble sinks, it becomes harder for people in Russia to buy anything. Inflation starts to skyrocket. It's a lot of like what we've seen recently in Venezuela, but you saw it in Zimbabwe, you saw it in Germany with the Weimar Republic. It just, people start, when it gets to a really extreme point, you're paying, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 1 million rubles for a loaf of bread, things like that. And the economy just starts to eat away at itself because no one can afford to buy anything from outside the country. Things just become too expensive, and it really just destroys an economy from the inside as you start to see the value of the ruble shrink or lose. As you start to see the value of the ruble sink, that really is going to put a lot of pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin, especially as his allies start to feel the sting because of these additional economic sanctions, and then they can't take their money anywhere and use it to buy anything. It really does put a lot of pressure on an economy.
All right. Dion Rabouin from the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much. Love seeing your Malala Yousafzai book, whose courage we could all be reminded of at this time. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.